This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk, college football / college basketball huddle. How are you guys tonight? Great to be here tonight. It's a little chilly in the Northeast. Going to warm up a little bit, but we're going into another cold snap this weekend. Hope it's warmer where you are. Hope you all enjoy the college football final. Monday night as Georgia and Kirby Smart finally broke through and beat Alabama for the national championship of college football. First time since 1980 when Vince Dooley led the Georgia Bulldogs to that championship with the great Herschel Walker. Listen, I want to welcome everybody from Roku TV tonight, or this afternoon. You'll see this tomorrow at noontime. I want to welcome all of you live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, wherever you may be catching us tonight. Again, I'm Keith Engel, your host. I'll have Jim Biringer, who's from the Last Word on Hockey, but he's one of our first words on college football, and we'll have him on as we kind of wrap up the season a little bit. We'll still be talking college football as we go forward, obviously, and we'll be pivoting a little into college basketball, as I mentioned the last couple of weeks. Hello, Alan. How are you? Georgia did finally get over the hump. Good to have you in tonight. Guys, don't forget to catch us besides this show again. This will air tomorrow at noon on Roku. Every Thursday at noon, this show will air on Roku. We also have our Are You Serious debate show with myself and the Mad New Yorker, Carlos Chavez, that will air on Roku at 11 a.m. on Fridays. We still do it live at 8 a.m. here on these outlets that I mentioned before. And our Sunday Stream of Consciousness, which airs at noon on Sundays on Roku and also live that morning on these outlets as well. And then catch my vlogs. My Patriot recaps. We got a little everything going on. But tonight, we're going to wrap up some college football. I'll jump into some college basketball later on. But with no further ado, let me bring in one of the good friends of the shows, Jim Biringer. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Keith.
How are you
doing?
I am doing fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing good. Staying warm. That's the key right now.
Staying warm is half the battle. You hockey guys probably don't mind this cold as much. You guys find ice where you can.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of us hockey guys play indoor, and the only time you like the cold weather outside is when you're playing on the pond.
I hear you. So listen, we'll jump right into it tonight. Obviously, you know, that game Monday night, I'm sure you were watching as intense as it was. You know, did not look good for Georgia in the first half, but, you know, I think they just wore Alabama down. It felt like this was, and I've said it all along, this wasn't a vintage Alabama team. And you could tell they did not have the depth that Alabama teams we're used to seeing have. And Georgia wore them down in the second half. Stetson Bennett comes up with a big play to kind of redeem himself a little bit, and Kirby Smart gets the monkey off his back. What were your thoughts on Monday night?
Yeah, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was an excellent game, capped off a great college football season. I thought the best team in the nation won. This was the Georgia team everybody expected to see in the SEC title game, but you know, Alabama was playing for the playoffs, so. You know, it did, like you said, it didn't look good for Georgia early. It was a very low-scoring defensive battle. It's a shame Jamison Williams tore his ACL because I think if he's in the game, I think Alabama wins this game just because the way they could spread the field. And then, you know, that opens the running game up for Robinson. And I thought they should have gotten to him more than they did. You know, everybody talks about the wide receivers going around. These guys are all 5-star recruits. But you can clearly see that a lot of them didn't get game time during the year. especially on the back end. Look, Jackson's going to be a great cornerback for this team. I think if he turns around there, then maybe that's not a touchdown, but give credit to Stetson Bennett after the fumble and the nonchalant play by Branch on the sideline.
Oh,
He's
God.
I was like, wait a minute. That was a fumble and he got it. I was like, okay. So they score there. Yeah, like you said, Alabama's defense just got worn down. I mean, through 3 quarters, they played them tight, but then the 4th quarter just opened up, and then Ringo with the pick 6 to ice the game. Alabama just couldn't control the passing game, and penalties later in the game hurt them. But again, they're a young team, and they're going to be back because a lot of these guys are going to be back. And you know what? Anderson is if he's not on the Heisman ballot next year, then there's something wrong because he's one of the best defensive ends in college football.
Yeah, losing Williams, I think, again, is more testament to the fact that Alabama is just not as deep as they were. And listen, I think, and we'll get into this, if not tonight, we'll get into it at some other point too. I think the days of the Alabamas and the Georgias going 3 and 4 deep at every position are going to be behind us in a lot of ways going forward.
Well, I mean, they were saying Robinson had gone through how many running backs in front of him? Like 4 running backs before he got the starting, like before he gets the job. And it definitely not having Mechie and Williams was hurting him because Hall. I mean, the thing is, Bryce Young didn't play a bad game. He made the throws he needed to make, but the guys just didn't catch the football. Like on the 3rd down when they're driving, the deep ball, it's in Hall's hand. He didn't even pick it up. Like his hand was turned the wrong way. If they catch this, it's a different game. But as I said off the top, the best team won. Credit to Georgia. They got it done, got the monkey off their back. And, give it up for Kirby Smart and that handshake after the game. Nothing but class between 2 guys.
Agreed. 2 great college football coaches. And I'm happy for Kirby Smart. He's too good to, go through his career with a monkey on his back. And now we won't have to. And let's say good night. I want to say good evening to Rick Sherlock. He's our biggest Dogs fan. So congrats,
Rick.
To you, Rick. And Sal, no, I was on Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry last night talking Patriots and Bills. So sorry if I confuse you there, but welcome here. And Alan says it took them 40 years. Kudos to them, though. They were the best team all year. I agree, except for one day they weren't the best.
No, they weren't the best on one day. But
again, the best 2 college football teams in college football faced off Monday night. I have no doubt about that. And it gets settled on the field as it should. And that's what this game and what this sport is supposed to be about.
Look,
and it's good to see. I got to tell you, Stetson Bennett, I haven't been his biggest fan throughout the last few years, but I was glad to see the kid have a big moment in the spotlight because he's taken a lot of heat on and off. He's been benched more than once, and there were a lot of people who probably would have benched him Monday night, and Kirby Smart stuck with him.
I mean, look, we saw what happened a few years ago with Jalen Hurts in the title game when he wasn't playing well. They go to Tua, and it's a different story for Alabama.
Yeah.
A lot of people at the half that I was talking to, they're like, I wouldn't be surprised to see JT Daniels. That's it. The U, baby. That's it.
The U on there. Good for you.
That's it. But, it's funny because, like I said, a lot of people are calling for JT Daniels because, Stetson Bennett was just not having a great first half. But again, Alabama was bringing pressure with that defense, especially on 3rd down. Anderson was getting through. Harris was getting through. Alabama was playing well defensively through 3 quarters. But like you said, Stetson Bennett came up, stepped up big in the big moment. It's good for him to have the spotlight and get that because as a kid, he wanted to win the national title as a quarterback at Georgia, and he got it. He's got his Joe Burrow moment with the cigar. I don't know if he's going to go anywhere after that. He might be a good backup quarterback in the NFL. Who knows? He may not. He may fade out. We don't know, but I don't think he's going to be a starter in the league, to be honest. I just don't think he has the game sense for that.
Well, I was a little worried about him early in the game. It looked like the moment might be too big for him because he had some happy feet back there, and the Alabama defense was harassing him, but he did settle down. The Georgia defense was, kept them in the game until the offense could kind of get their act together there, midway through the 3rd quarter. So, it takes, Georgia's defense has kept them in every game this year. The games that they actually had any kind of competition, right? But That was their hallmark all year, was that defense, and it stood up to the test of that Alabama offense very well, I thought. Of course, Monday night. Let's see what Rick's got to say here.
I agree with that for sure.
And Alan, by the way, I see your comment there, and we'll jump on that once we stop talking about the game a little bit. So Rick's talking about everybody has to deal with injuries at this point, which is very true. Georgia was missing their linebacker. Good point. And Georgia's best wide receiver played only sparingly this season. And it's a good point. I mean, injuries are something every program's got to deal with, every football team at every level. So, look at congrats again. I don't know how much more we can say. I do want to jump into a couple other topics. If you got something more you want to say about this other than
I just want to wrap it up like the way you were saying at the beginning, how they wore them down. I think the two big plays open the third or fourth quarter, those two big runs. Cook opens up the run game.
Yeah.
That big 67-yard run, White punches it in. I think they were running the ball well against that Alabama defense. But I think this was Georgia was healthy at every position in this game, and their defense just played unbelievable, and they wanted it. It took them 37 days. They had that SEC title game stamped all over their locker room. They wanted Alabama in the title game. That's all they talked about. They wanted to be there against Alabama because they wanted redemption from the SEC title game. And when teams play with redemption, they're looking for it's like Ohio State last year when they wanted to play Clemson. They wanted to wipe away embarrassment, and they did. They played really well, and they stepped up. They played great against Michigan, and they played great against Alabama. And kudos for Kirby Smart getting his guys ready to play in this game.
For sure. Rick has one more comment. As Keith Jackson would say, the big uglies did win this game, I think, for Georgia. There's a lot of games. I talk about it all the time. We're talking about football. Most games are won in the trenches, and this was a perfect example of that, I think.
Yes, I agree. I think Kirk Herbstreit was talking about that the whole night as well. Pollock was talking about it after the game.
Yeah.
The game was run in the trenches on the offensive and defensive line, and that's what you saw from Alabama against Cincinnati, and that's what you saw in this game as well. I think Georgia's offensive and defensive line won them the game.
So is this the start? And again, Alan, I promise we'll get to this. Alan had messaged me earlier with a topic you wanted to bring up about the telecast of the game. We'll get into that in a second, but so hang in there, Alan, I promise. Is this a start, you think, Jim, of a run for Georgia, or is Alabama going to reload, or are we just going to see Georgia, Alabama every year for the next 5 years?
I don't know. I mean, Georgia's losing a lot of players, in the offseason. A bunch of guys are going to get drafted, especially on the defensive side. I mean, I think Georgia's going to be atop the SEC again. I think Alabama's going to be right back up there. I believe I read the stats since the BCS era. I think 9 different teams have won the national championship. BCS, FBS, with the new playoff. So, and most of them been from the SEC. The thing is with Alabama again, is good and bad. Are we how's Nick Saban going to retool? How is he going to put a better defensive structure in? Because I think that was weak. I think a lot of these players learned lessons. I think they're going to be better, but I think other teams are going to be better, like Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M probably be better. It may not be as easy as it's been, and not a guarantee that these teams are always going to meet up in the playoff or in the SEC title game. I think there's going to be competition, but I think Georgia is definitely dominant on their side of everything.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the rest of the league's going to catch up to Alabama and Georgia, right? But they're certainly making progress. I wish Carlos was here tonight because I know he likes to say that the league is weak, but I think the league's getting more competitive, and it's only going to get more competitive in a couple of years, obviously, when Oklahoma and Texas get there. But, Kentucky made great strides this year. Tennessee made great strides this year. We saw what Lane Kiffin's done at Ole Miss. You mentioned Texas A&M.
Arkansas is always a tough out for teams. Mississippi State's a tough out for teams.
There's only one team in this conference you can say next year will not be competitive, and that's Vanderbilt every single year. The rest could be very competitive in any given year.
Right, exactly. We don't know what Florida is going to look like. Who knows? This league is very competitive. Especially, and then you have to, and don't forget about Auburn and LSU. We don't know, those are the two biggest rivals for
Rick is still
for Alabama.
For Georgia. I have my doubts there, but I don't even know what class he's in. They've been talking about him so long. I don't even know when he's going to arrive.
I have no idea.
I think he's still 2 years away. I still think Arch Manning will be in either Ole Miss or LSU. And I guarantee you, if he's still coaching and when Arch Manning comes out, that Brian Kelly will be in his living room.
Yeah, probably.
Every night.
No doubt.
Watching Netflix with him, probably. Let's see what Allen's got here. Georgia and Alabama will be affected by the transfer portal. Yeah, they are, but they can afford to lose guys a whole lot more than, some of these other schools can, as we just talked about, because they're deeper. What else? 7 Alabama players have entered the portal, and let's not forget Brett Venable in Oklahoma when they moved to the SEC. Look at, I'm not so sure Oklahoma is going to just walk in here and be ultra competitive right away. This is a little different animal than they're used to out there in the Big 12. Not a bad conference, don't get me wrong, the Big 12, but this is different.
They're going from being the shark to seeing a lot of sharks.
Yeah.
Because whatever side they're in, you're either going to have to play Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Florida, Ole Miss, Georgia. I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk.
It's a gauntlet right now. I mean,
that's a gauntlet of teams.
Yeah.
Not to mention Arkansas is, good.
Well, we'll talk about some of these teams too as we get going, because one of the topics I want to jump into while we've got you here tonight is, and I think we'll do that right now, is who do we think next year? Who's the Cinderellas? Now, I want to start with, the Cincinnati. So teams that are not necessarily in Power 5 conferences, but we can include teams from Power 5 conferences that we might expect to make a big jump and be a little bit more competitive and possibly compete for conference championships.
Man, look, Cincinnati's building a good program out there. I mean, do I expect them to be back there? No, but I think Utah can be a team that could be a Cinderella type team that could be, up where Cincinnati was this year. No doubt. I mean, the way they played against Ohio State in that game was awesome. They showed everybody they can play. Texas A&M, a lot of people are saying Texas A&M is going to be a team that, look out, they could make a playoff next year.
I got a couple teams I want to throw at you. These are the teams that come to my mind. I'm going to throw some teams at you that are group of 5 teams first, and then we'll talk about. I got a couple sleepers in the Power 5 conferences. I think Houston is probably going to overtake Cincinnati, at least for now.
I like Houston too. Houston's a good team.
Yeah, that team, they're going to bring a lot of guys back. It's very competitive. They got a really good coach in I can never say is it I'll say it wrong. Dana Holstrom, I think, is his last name. UCF under Gus Malzone, I think, is going to make maybe a move back in that conference. And these are 3 schools, remember, including Cincinnati. Now they've only got a couple years left here in the AAC, and they're going to be moving to the Big 12. And I think these are the 2 teams that may overtake Cincinnati and be a sleeper next year to kind of jump into that top 10.
Yeah, those are good teams. I mean, UCF has always been. I mean, we know what they did. They went undefeated the one year. They had the shirts made national champions. Because they went undefeated at back-to-back regular season undefeated. But yeah, I mean, UCF's a really good team. Yeah, they're down a little bit, but they're gonna be really good. And I agree with Houston. I think the way Houston played this year closed out the season strong, despite the loss to Cincinnati in the title game. They had a nice bowl outing, so they're gonna be really good. I was talking with a friend the other day. I said I wish Rutgers was in the American because they do so much better in there.
They'd be competitive, and they'd probably get a better, consistently better group of kids in there, I think, that can compete on that level. Let me throw another school at you. They made a big jump this year. They kept their coach, who was being mentioned for a lot of the jobs around Texas, Jeff Traylor at Texas San Antonio. Is that a school that we can see they finish in the top 25 this year? Is that a school that we can see making the type of jump that Coastal Carolina made, Cincinnati's made, UCF has made? Can they make that type of jump?
They can. Will they? I mean, look, it all depends on where they rank towards the end of the year, and towards the beginning of the year, because they have to come out strong. They're going to have to put a consistent good team together. They're a team like Cincinnati that's going to have to go undefeated and have to look good every game doing it. They can't have a slip up. But they're a good team that can be a sleeper. I don't know if they get to a playoff, but they could be a New Year's Six bowl.
Good point. Alan brings up, he mentions Utah and Houston. I like Utah. You mentioned Utah, and I'm going to throw a couple of power 5 schools out here at you in a second. And Baylor's already there.
Yeah, Baylor's already there. I wouldn't call them a sleeper.
I mean, it's a good pick to compete for a playoff spot next year, I think. And they kept their coach who, was well sought after. And I think they'll be a contender next year. And real quick, before I bring this up, before I forget it, Arch Manning is a class of 23. So he's only 16 years old. He's been being recruited since he was about 11.
Jeez.
So good grief, right? So here's the school. Here's a couple schools I want to throw at you. Oh, by the way, here I had a couple.
I got another one. I got one out of the Mountain West.
Yeah.
San Diego State, if they can continue to play the way they're playing, I think they could be a good school.
Good. A very good year they had this year as well. So yeah, that's a good pick. Here's a couple of schools, by the way, before I get off the group of 5 that I can see making a little bit of a comeback and maybe making a jump into at least to the top 25. I think Navy's on the way back.
Yeah, Navy definitely on the way back.
Coach Ken, and thank God I heard when they did a spot on him on game day this year that they were calling him Coach Ken because I cannot say his name.
No one can say his last name.
I heard guys say it that day, and my wife goes, "That's easy," and she just pronounces it like nothing, and I'm like, I just can't do that.
I gotta hear it like 6 times before I could even say it.
I got a hard time with Smith and Jones, for crying out loud. Appalachian State, I can see making a move back up next year as well. Those are a couple of teams from the group of 5s. But here's a couple teams I think. One from the ACC, and one from the SEC, who made great strides this year, kind of quietly. Let's start with the SEC. South Carolina gets Sean Rattler in the portal. They had a really good resurging year in the SEC, very competitive, especially the second half of the season under Sean Beamer, who turned down the job at Virginia Tech to stay at South Carolina, where his dad coached at Virginia Tech. That's a team that I would watch out for as a sleeper in the SEC next year myself.
I like South Carolina. I like the way they were playing. They finished the year very good. They have a good now with Spencer Rattler there. Nice transfer portal. Surprising that he went there, but Gamecocks are moving well. They could make some definite strides in the SEC for sure. I like that pick. That's a solid pick right there.
Now their problem is they're going to be playing in the same division with Georgia, who's going to be loaded again next year.
Yeah, but you know what? They have winnable games against the other teams in that division. Yeah,
I think these other teams are going to beat each other up because they're all very good, except. And again, I expect LSU to get better with Brian Kelly, obviously, and Auburn to get better. So I guess I said year in and year out, Vanderbilt's the only team that's never going to win there.
Yeah.
Why are they even there?
I mean, that's a team that should go to the American.
Good point. They do not belong in the SEC, especially with the way they're building that conference. I mean, they're never going to win a game.
No, I mean, that's a team that you could, you want to talk about rearranging conferences. Even, I'd say Big 12, but even there, I don't know how competitive they would be, especially with the teams coming in. I mean, maybe they would be considering Texas and Oklahoma are there, have left. So maybe they can get some wins there, maybe against like a Kansas and stuff.
We're going to get to that. We'll get that in a second too, Alan, for sure.
And didn't Alan bring something up about the telecast?
He did. I want to go there as soon as we finish talking about these maybe sleepers. So the other team I wanted you to watch out for next year in the ACC is Boston College.
Oh yeah, Boston College. They took big time strides this year. They played well at home too. They had some winnable games towards the end of the year. They could have had a better record than they did.
The ACC's gotten ripped a little bit this year. I think it's still a really good conference. It didn't look as good because they didn't have that powerhouse Clemson at the top.
Yeah, but
very well balanced league in my mind. And Boston College among other teams, I think is primed to make a move there. And that
I mean, look, we're both wearing it. I mean, like I say it every year, I think they could make strides, and I think they could be better. I think Miami could make some strides next year in the ACC too.
Yeah,
I mean, I say it every year, but you know what? The way they played towards the end of the year and the way they found their quarterback, and if they can continue to get consistent play under Mario Cristobal and, move in the right direction, because they started this year, that's a team you want to watch out for.
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring them up because I didn't want to seem like a homer, and
right. I don't want to be like, but I say it every year. But I watched a lot of games this year. It's not like they played poorly. They had a nice winning streak going. They've lost games that they probably shouldn't have lost, but they took strides with the right quarterback there.
Well, and that division that they're playing is wide open as well. I mean, Pittsburgh loses their quarterback. They're going to have to they've got some good guys coming back, but they're going to have to reload a little bit. Wake Forest. Wake's in the other division.
That's a team that probably, if they continue to play like they're playing, could get into a maybe conversation again.
Yeah, because, if they improve that defense, they hired a new defensive coordinator. If they improve that defense, they're going to be very tough next year for sure. And again, we could be talking about them, in the top 6 or 8 teams in the country if they improve that defense, because that offense is just lights out.
Right, the defense has got to get better.
Let's see. We got a couple comments before we go. We'll circle back to Alan's. This is an interesting pick. Don't be surprised if Kansas makes a run in 5 years. Well, that's because everybody's leaving the league. But the only
everybody else is gone.
And one of those Texas teams that I don't know that I know you're not a Texas Longhorn fan, Alan, but if I was a Texas fan, I'd be hiding my head with that loss there. Problem with all these schools is that the lines are overwhelmed by top schools. You know why? But that can change too, Rick. I mean, again, I still think, and I've come around to the fact that I think some of this NIL money is going to make more parity.
Well, did you see what Saban and Smart were saying? Like prior to the championship, they were like they want the NIL stuff to be controlled because players could just be going anywhere because of NIL money and all that stuff.
Jackson State they can go to. Yeah. They want it to go away because they like their little monopoly that they got going in and getting all the best players. So
exactly.
This is interesting. And we're talking about Vanderbilt and Carlos.
It's like the
Dolphins.
I mean, wait a minute. That's not fair because the Dolphins are better than Vanderbilt.
Right. I'm not sure where he gets that comment from, but he's got a follow up here. So I'm not sure I follow it, but Dolphins ruined playoffs for many teams. Not sure where.
But Vanderbilt doesn't.
I mean, Vanderbilt can't.
Right, exactly.
Every team needs to improve in the ACC. Better league than you think, Carlos. We know you hate the ACC because you're an SEC elitist. We know that. Georgia Tech was ridiculous. Right, yeah, like Vanderbilt.
There's another team that could go to the American.
Hello, Carlos, by the way. I didn't wish you welcome you in tonight, so welcome to the show. Anthony weighs in. Welcome, Anthony, tonight. Will the Pac-12 ever be great, or will they be like the NFC East of the NFL? I think he means...
Hey, don't knock the NFC East because the NFC East got a lot of Super Bowl championships.
Well, right now, they don't in a while.
The last one was Philly. That was a few years ago.
Yeah, they beat some team. I can't remember who it was.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Didn't they beat the Patriots?
Oh, Jesus. Why you got to say that? Jeez.
Well, like the Giants beat the Patriots twice?
Oh, gosh. You guys are killing me. I should have never brought it up. This is a college football show, you guys.
Hey, well, you know what? He brought it up, so I'm just going to run with it.
Let's see. Is there something else? Let me see what else we got.
But again, he brought up Georgia Tech. There's another team that could go to the American.
Yeah. Well, the Americans are going to be, they brought a bunch of teams in from Conference USA, but they need to strengthen that league a little bit more, I think. Yeah. Once Cincinnati and Houston and UCF are gone, that's going to be, they need some help there. So, all right. So let's dive into this because I don't see anything else here I missed. So, what's this one here? Okay, we'll go to that one after. We're going to go to Alan's question about. Let me back it up. I'll find it somewhere. His biggest issue is that this game was on ESPN only. So, I mean, ESPN's got pretty good coverage around the country. But again, if you're not a cable subscriber or a streamer of television, you can't get it if you're just watching over-the-air television. So, you know, ESPN and ABC are obviously owned by Disney, and they could have simulcast this game if they wanted to. They showed it on pretty much every ESPN channel they had. So you think that they should have shown this game on network TV since they have that relationship anyway?
I think they should have, because they do it with the NFL games. I think they should have put it on ABC that night. But looking at the ratings, they didn't, because they have a show called The Bachelor on ABC. So I guess that's why they didn't do it. Plus, technically, every college football game has been on ESPN, including the playoff, and that's what their exclusive deal is. And I think it's on like Hulu and ESPN Plus too. So, I mean, there's ways to find the game. I do agree it should be on network TV, because I think they would have popped a better number if it was simulcast.
Top games usually on ABC.
Not necessarily, because this past year, usually Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler do every ABC night game, and they didn't do it. They were doing they do the biggest game of the week, and sometimes they were doing the early game on ESPN.
I agree. The thing is, look at Alan, they pay a lot of money for these contracts, and the college football is, Kenny Gifford isn't here tonight, but he talks about it all the time, and we all know it. Everything revolves around the money, and the networks who pay the most money are going to get to put the game on. And when this playoff gets expanded, don't expect to see all those games on network TV either, because if ESPN's involved, and as we go further, if we go further down the streaming world, Amazon's going to get involved in the bidding on all these. They're going to be involved in the next NFL contract much more heavily. They're going to be involved in NCAA football.
They're going to be involved in basketball more. They're going to, they're the ways of just watching, flipping from CBS to Fox to NBC to ABC on New Year's Day is gone.
Yeah.
So, and the way these numbers popped for these games on both playoff games did well on ESPN. They probably could have done better if it was a New Year's Eve, but they still did well. All the New Year's 6 games did well on ESPN. So it's not going to change. Would it be nice to have it on network TV? Sure. But it's advertised as ESPN, and that's what it's going to be. And it's going to be on the app, and it's going to be on all these channels. There's a way to find it. So, look, I thought the telecast was good. I think Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler are probably the top college football duo around. I really like these guys. I wish they would call more pro games, because
they did Saturday night. They did a great job with.
They've done 2 pro games, and I've loved both of them.
Yeah. Oh, they did the first Monday night game too.
They did the Giant Steeler game last year on the first Monday night game.
Yeah, they did a great job the other night. I thought. I love Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's very good, and Fowler's underrated. I wish they'd do more pro games too. I mean, if we saw more, we'd probably hate them just like we hate all the other.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing is they know how to call a football game. It's not, these guys know it.
Yeah, Alan's good. Right, Alan. You're making your own.
You're making your own point for you.
Already locked up Thursday Night Football, and by the way, Amazon also is going to be in play for when the contract comes up for the NFC AFC packages, or the NFL package in general. Amazon's going to be in play for that, not just Thursday Night Football. They're going to
get a game on Sunday.
Agreed. And the worst, I don't, what the problem with that is, and we'll certainly jump into it more as the season goes on, Carlos, and we dive more into college basketball. But Turner's problem is they put the pro guys in the pro pre-games in that NCAA tournament role. Charles Barkley comes in there and doesn't know anything that's going on. He's just, he just does this Charles Barkley act, and that's it. So that's all that is. So, and Carlos, but I got to back up, because Carlos did say Vanderbilt made a little run with my favorite coach, who's not my favorite coach, James Franklin, a while back. Got him a lot of money at Penn State. I know that. And he is not my favorite coach, because he's done less with more than any coach I can think of in the country.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Speaking of coaches, let's move on. And I haven't heard as much this week. Now that we've had Black Monday, and NFL coaches are getting fired, including your favorite coach, Joe Judge. About time. Have you ever seen a coach go about getting himself fired? His job was probably safe. All he had to do was zip his lip. But the last 2 weeks of the season, he couldn't shut his mouth.
Well.
I mean, especially the way he rambled on about the Washington before they played him, about the soap opera there, and he talked about Pat Shurmur, and he talked about former players and calling him in the middle of the night, telling him he wanted to come back. I mean, God. Anyway,
he should have just zipped his lip and moved on. But the problem is, no right sane general manager would have come in there with Joe Judge as the head coach. So
good point. And by the way, whatever you think about Joe Judge, to me, it's not fair to any coach or general manager to bring him in with a guy already in place. You need to make those moves in tandem. The GM needs to make that move and have his guy in there, because Joe Judge would have been on the clock from the minute the new guy was hired.
If he had lost the first game, he would have been fired. So
yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, Jim Harbaugh, who led a great resurgence, as we know, at Michigan this year, won the first Big Ten title at Michigan in 17 years. That Michigan's won in 17 years. Jim Harbaugh beats Ohio State for the first time, gets them to the college football playoff. Didn't have a very good showing against Georgia, but again, it was a resurgent year for Michigan. He's really done pretty well there, over his time there, other than, again, struggling against Ohio State. And, he got the program back on solid footing. Do you think he's done enough there? I mean, the whispers are that he wants back in the game in the NFL. What are your thoughts there? And where do you think he might end up? The Dolphins, when they fired Flores, I first thought of that, because if you remember, when he was ready to leave Stanford, I believe that there was planes flying him to Miami before he took the San Francisco job, that Ross really loved him, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins. But he very quickly said, I'm not interested in Jim Harbaugh after he fired Flores. So what are your thoughts on Harbaugh and where he might go?
Look, I thought the same thing too, but then you see the quotes coming out there about, I don't want to take Harbaugh away from Michigan. So you're like, okay, well, maybe he's not going there. Look, we know Harbaugh is a great NFL coach. He's a great coach, period. I think he got the raw end of a deal, but a lot of players just wanted him out. But he took a team to a Super Bowl. So you can't say he's not a successful NFL coach because he proved he can do it. The thing is, there's a lot of openings out there right now. I know the Giants have some interest in bringing in Harbaugh. We'll see if they do it. I don't know if they do it. It all depends on the general manager and what kind of they want to bring in.
You weren't with us. Yeah, you weren't with us last week, I don't think. I floated this idea, and I saw the next morning there was an article in the New Jersey. What's the New Jersey paper there?
Well, there's the Record or Star Ledger.
I think it's a Star. I think it was the Star Ledger had an article about Jim Harbaugh and why they should be looking to bring Jim Harbaugh before they ever fired Joe Judge. Maybe they watched my show. I don't know.
You never know. You never know with these things. It's weird. You see things that happen and you're sure. I was like, yeah, they probably watched the show or something. But I agree. I think they should bring him in. I think, why not? You know what? These players kind of need it. They could bring competition. He knows the college game. He knows who to draft, what players are good, what players are not good. That would be an interesting move, but you never know. He could just be like, look, you know what? I like it at Michigan. I have unfinished business here. I got to a playoff, but I got embarrassed. Now I want to come back with my team and be better. Well,
the rumors when the whispers first started was the Raiders were in love with him because him and Mark Davis are good friends. But now the Raiders have made the playoffs. I mean, maybe they won't make a coaching change. I'm not so sure that will happen. And again, I had this debate with Carlos the other day. If I'm Jim Harbaugh and I got my choice between the Raiders and Derek Carr, who's a nice quarterback, reminds me a lot of the one in L.A.,
Herbert.
Stafford.
Good
numbers. I actually compared him to Jeff George the other day, which probably wasn't fair to Carr. But if I'm Harbaugh and I got a choice between the Raiders and Carr, who's what, 30?
Yeah.
31? I'm not sure. 30-ish anyway. And the Bears, let's say, and Josh Fields. I'm going to the Bears and building with a young kid and mold him in my image, not the guy who's already set in his ways. What are your thoughts on if it
I would go to Chicago with Justin Fields too. I think that's the way to do. That would be the move if I'm Harbaugh. I would try to mold that quarterback into my way. Again, you could say the same thing with like a Daniel Jones. Maybe he could figure out a way to fix that, though I really don't know if you can.
Well, he's a guy who could do it, I think. I mean,
yeah, I think he could do it because he helped. Look, McNamara took a lot of steps this year with Michigan, especially throwing the ball. So if there's one guy that can fix quarterbacks and do good things with them, I think it's Jim Harbaugh. So those are two scenarios where he could go. I don't know if
he went to the NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, so he can certainly do something.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Quarterbacks who are not, all world.
Exactly. So
let's see what we got. We got a couple comments here. Let's catch up. Carlos is all over this. Rumors say Saban just said no to the Dolphins. There's no. Come on.
He ain't leaving Alabama.
Come on, Carlos. Get serious with me. This is a little more serious. Harbaugh might hate New York. By the way, the Giants might have to move back to New York. I saw one of your brethren down there is suing them for $8 billion.
He ain't going to win that loss. That shit's going to be dismissed quicker.
We're such a litigious society. It's unbelievable the things that the courts will let come in. So Harbaugh might not be a good fit for New York. I don't disagree with him there, but, I think he'll get a conversation. Everything's a mess in the Meadowlands right now. I mean, both sides of the stadium. So
look, Flores isn't. I like Flores to Denver, maybe, but I think that, two names again, Harbaugh and Flores could go to New York. Who knows? I
have heard Flores a lot today in relation to the Giant job. So, yeah. And just to touch on that real quick before I go to Carlos, is Alan had wondered what happened there. The wrong guy. Sorry, that's the wrong one. He's where's that? Brian Flores. Was a shocker until you start reading into it. And I like Brian Flores. He's from the Belichick coaching tree, and some of the rumors are he's too much like Belichick. He got into more than one shouting match with his quarterback this year. Him and the GM were not getting along. And when you read into it, he lost a power struggle from the sound of it. And the Dolphins must think Tua is their guy, or I'm not firing in that head coach who's really not done a bad job there in 3 years.
No, he hasn't done a bad job. I mean, he went back-to-back 500 seasons. They won, 8 of 9 games to close the year?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what more you want from your coach. I understand maybe Tua is not his guy and they wanted to go Herbert. Okay. But, he's like, he's from the Belichick tree, which means he's from the Saban tree, because Saban still is probably upset at Tua for the delay of game penalty in the national championship game.
Have I watched Fields play? I have watched him play. He's playing on a really bad football team with a really bad football coach. He had a couple of good halves of football this year and played like a rookie quarterback.
Exactly. Played like a rookie quarterback.
Every rookie quarterback not named Mac Jones or Dan Marino. I mean,
or Patrick Mahomes.
I guess I shouldn't mention Mac Jones in the same breath as Dan Marino just yet, but
but he played really well.
He did. I mean, look, Fields will be fine. I think unless he gets hurt, I think he's going to be a NFL quarterback and a reasonable one. Will he be a Hall of Famer? I can't say that. I can't say that about anybody.
No.
Who knows Chicago? So I don't know what. So he knows. Oh, he's talking about Harbaugh now. Patterson. So we're talking about Gary Patterson. Is that? I'm not sure who we're talking about there.
I don't know if Gary Patterson's going to leave college
I would think Gary Patterson's probably going to sit a year and look for a college job next year.
Yeah.
Would be my guess, but Rick, clarify if that's not Gary Patterson, because you're missing a T and it could be somebody else entirely. New ownership at the Broncos is going to be I don't want to get too much into
let's not talk too much NFL. That's for Sunday show or Friday show.
Maybe Lincoln Riley will wake up Sunday morning and take the Dolphins show. Oh, God, you're killing me, man. Jory, welcome to the show today, by the way. But Lincoln Riley's certainly not walking off the USC campus just yet. Which job would be the best to take? Well, there's a good question. I think I just made myself clear. I would take, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'd take the Chicago job. That's the job I take.
I'd take the Chicago job too.
Look at San Francisco was nowhere. 2-14 before he got there. He was in the Super Bowl in a couple of years. Again, not with quarterbacks who are not going to be as good as Josh Fields is going to be.
Yep.
Cold City struggled to pick up players. Oh, well.
Right.
I mean, pretty cold in Foxborough, I'll tell you, in December and January. Carlos did pretty well the last 20-some years. Anyway, let's get off the NFL. What else? What are your final takeaways from the season? Anything from the final? Anything else you want to touch on before we cut you loose tonight and wrap up our 2021-2022 college football season? We'll still be talking some college football, but what do you got to say just to wrap it up?
I gotta say it was a fun college football year. It was great coming on talking college football. I had fun. I can't wait for next season already. I still go back to does regular season stats matter in bowl season, and if it does, then everything should happen after the national championship game, including the Heisman Trophy vote and transfer portals and all that stuff. Because if I was voting for the Heisman Trophy, Will Anderson's the Heisman Trophy winner.
You know, I agree. That's a great point, and it's going to happen eventually. And you know, we're getting closer. Hutchinson was right there, but to me, he wasn't. You know, no offense, Michigan guys, he wasn't the best defensive player in the country this year for sure. And I think you saw some of that Monday night. Before I got one more thing I wanted to throw at you before I do let you go, because one thing that was eating at me last week and I brought up and you weren't here, I want to bounce it off you. I got a problem when guys are pulling out of these bowl games like the Pittsburgh quarterback, whose name is suddenly escaping me.
Kenny Pickett.
But he's going to play in a Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I hate that. What is that about? You could still get hurt in a Senior Bowl.
I don't get it. I mean, yeah, I get it because NFL teams are running the two teams and whatnot. He gives them. You should have played in your bowl game. You let your team down, and that doesn't. If I'm an NFL scout, that stuff, character means something, and you know you're looking out for number one. That team counted on you, and it counted on you to be in that bowl game, and you just were looking out for number one, which is fine, but it shows me something about your character.
Yeah, I don't like that. If you're not going to play in the bowl game, don't play in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. I wanted to see if you were on the same page with me there.
I mean, it sounds like we are on the same page with that one.
I read that, and I was like, I thought I must have misread it. I'm like, he said he was done with college football. What are you doing playing in an all-star game?
Right, exactly. And does it even matter? It doesn't matter. The bowl game matters more.
Yeah, I agree. It does kind of drive me nuts. So anyway, Jim, it's been a pleasure having you in for the college football season. I'll reach out to you because we got to catch up with the NHL. If you're free Sunday morning, we'll certainly do that. And I'll reach out to you to see if you're available.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Definitely reach out. You know, NHL season back on, so we definitely want to talk about that. Everybody, hopefully, God forbid, no more games get postponed. But yeah, no, been fun college football year. Definitely fun doing this weekly, talking about college football since the rankings came out, and yeah, this has been awesome. I can't wait to do it again next year. Well,
when we have news to talk about, I'll certainly bring you in to do that anyway through the off season as well.
Sounds good, my man.
All right, thanks for being on, Jim. Have a great night.
Hey, you too. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right, let me catch up on. Thanks to Jim Biringer again from the Last Word on Hockey. Check out his site. Check out Mad Radio, where they do a hockey show. Check out Jim's blogs. I post them to TGI Sports Talk as well. Great writer, really good sports fan, and certainly knows his hockey and knows his college football. So we love having Jim in. Let me catch up on some of your comments before I kind of pivot maybe to some college basketball. Rick, Philadelphia coach and Super Bowl winner. Oh, Peterson, PED. I get it now. You know what? I think he was in Green Bay, right? Wasn't he a Green Bay offensive coordinator, I think, before he went to Philadelphia? Probably will get an interview with Minnesota and probably maybe somebody else. Who knows? But now I get you. Thank you, Rick, for clarifying that. But I said that Doug Peterson would be back in the NFL this year. I remember telling the Philly sports guy when I was filling in on their NFC East show early in the year that I was wrong about this. This will tell you how I thought the Eagles were going to be. And again, I'm getting into the NFL too much tonight, but I thought the Doug Peterson would be back in the NFL and win 9 games before the Eagles did. I guess I was wrong there. Hey, would you transfer to North Dakota State if you're interested in winning? Well, I could go there and win the Division II championship. Look at the best recruit in the country went to Jackson State. No, I wouldn't. And I would wonder why those guys took the money and went to Jackson State if I was looking to recruit them later on to play on the next level. A lot of good games this year. Agreed. There's a lot. This was an exciting college football season. I don't care. You can say whatever you want about the final, about, fatigue of seeing the same teams year in and year out. We got to see two different teams in the playoff this year in Michigan and Cincinnati. We did get an all SEC final, which it's about getting the best two teams, and we got them. We had a lot of fun and a lot of good games getting there. It was a fun ride. And this 2021 season was a lot of fun. Definitely, Rick. I guarantee you, Jim. Jim's free. He's going to be on Sunday to catch us up, and we'll have him on. Most likely every other Sunday or something going forward. Senior Bowl does have college football coaches. Exactly. I'm not sure who the staffs are this year, but there are full NFL coaching. Full team. NFL teams coaches, so I'm not sure who they are. They're two teams that aren't in the playoffs, obviously. Guys are content on going in the second round or later because it's about money. Yeah, well, you're not getting the money in the second round. You're getting it in the first round. You don't get paid. I don't believe they get paid, Jory, to go to the Senior Bowl. I mean, they might pay some of their expenses, which I guess you could consider getting paid, but I don't believe they get paid. Peterson, is that official, Alan, that Peterson has an interview you're talking about with the Vikings? Rick would like that. He's a good coach. The two worst teams, is it? Who is that? It was a tie, wasn't it? Nobody wanted that first pick in the NFL draft this last weekend. So that would mean the Lions and the Jaguars can't be the Jaguars staff. They don't even have a head coach. So anyway, the Senior Bowl, I am interested in the Senior Bowl. I like to watch a Senior Bowl because I like to see these guys. They could get something again, Jory. I'm not really sure. I'll take a quick look. Somebody put a comment up while I look to see if do players get paid for the – you guys like hearing me talk out my typing? Senior Bowl. Historically, a Senior Bowl was the first chance for participants had to openly receive pay for participation. Good call, Jory Hansen. In the 1950 inaugural game, the players got $343 each. And by 1975, that had increased to $1,500. Now the question is it still going on? It says was the only game. So I'm going to assume that they don't get paid right now. But good call. I did not know that. Very good call. Peterson's interviewing with Chicago. Bad news, Rick. Get on the phone to the Vikings. Get Detroit and the Jets. That's awesome. All right. Any last call for college football, guys? Because if not, I'm going to do a little quick transfer here. You can put up a last questions, but I'm going to start talking a little bit of college basketball. I got to come up with, how do you like this music? I need some music. Oh, how come I don't hear anything? Oh, what do you think? Not that one. That's my college football music. I don't have any music for basketball when I do my lead-in. Somebody's got to help me out. I'm searching. Still kind of drum music, right? I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Got to come up with some lead-in as we head towards a college basketball season. We haven't got a chance to dive into it on any of my shows, really. A little bit we dove into it on Sunday show, but this show will pivot now to be. We'll still talk college football because there's still going to be stories as we go through. There's going to be college coaches that may leave and jobs open up. So we're going to jump into that. But we're going to talk, lots of college basketball on Wednesday nights as we go forward. We haven't had a chance to do it. And we're going to talk about some of the early season right now some of the early season surprises around the NCAA. And it's, again, we're just kind of heading to league play now. There's been some interesting stories, I think. Texas Tech has come out of nowhere to get ranked in the top 25 now and they'll go up even more after beating Baylor last night, number 1 in the country. And before that, they'd beaten Kansas, who I think was, at the time, Kansas was, come on, where are you, Kansas? I know you're here. Kansas was number 6 in the country when Texas Tech beat them. So in the span of 3 days, Texas Tech beat 2 top 6 teams. So they've been a pleasant surprise here early in the year. I'll give you a few others that I like. And if you guys, hopefully, you guys are into college football, basketball, the way you were college football. I love college. The NBA is tough for me. I've tried to get Rick Sherlock back into it. But then with the Knicks struggling, it's hard for me to watch. But college basketball, I enjoy a lot, especially as we get closer to tournament time. I love following all the conference tournaments. There's no more fun than I used to have going every single year. We'd go to the MAC tournament here in Albany, where Siena was the host team, and it was a lot of fun for 3 days, 3 or 4 days to watch all those games. And when the NCAAs come into town a handful of times, there's no more fun than you can have than that. And hopefully we'll catch some new people as we start sharing this show to the college basketball groups as well. And what you Roku followers can join us live as well and comment. Don't forget, when we do this show live Wednesday nights at 7. So again, a couple other surprises. Another Texas team, Texas A&M, is off to a good start in the Big 12. The Big 12 is just very, very tough, man. I'll tell you what. Oklahoma got off to a great start with Porter Moser as their new coach, coming over from Chicago, Loyola of Chicago. But they haven't started conference play, or they're just starting conference play, and it's going to be tough, man, because that league is loaded with Baylor. Number 1 Baylor, they may fall out of that spot. You got Kansas, you got Texas Tech, as I said, you got Texas, who's playing very well, and then even the West Virginias and the Oklahoma States. Iowa State's probably one of the bigger disappointments right now. They're 13-3 overall, but they've started 1-3 in the conference to show you how tough that conference really is. And I'll get to your comments in a minute. I just want to go through a couple of the other surprises that I have to get started. Oklahoma, I already mentioned. Providence in the Big East got off to a really fast start. And, they're still in first place in the conference at 4-1 and 14-2 overall. So a nice start out of Providence. Colorado off to a nice start out west in the Pac-12. Davidson off to a nice start as well in the A10. That's another league, but I look for these leagues that are kind of under the radar good, like the AAC in football. You guys all know how much I love the AAC in football. Well, the league that I like one of the leagues I like a lot in college basketball is the A10, because there's some good teams in that league that are very underrated. VCU's consistently got a competitive team. St. Bonaventure has been very good the last few years after some down years. Dayton, unfortunately, was on a great roll when the NCAA tournament was wiped out 2 years ago because of COVID. St. Louis has been very competitive over the years. St. Joe's historically good program on a downside now. Rhode Island's had some good teams through the years. UMass, we all know, won a national championship. That was later. They competed in the Final Four for a national championship, but that was later taken away when John Calipari was there, and there were some sanctions against them. But a good underrated league. And another team, we just talked about them in football. The University of Miami knocked off Duke the other night. They're 5-1 in the ACC, 13-4 overall. Jim Larangara got this team working on all cylinders right now. And we don't think of Miami as a basketball power, but they've had some competitive football teams here recently. And Jim Larangara, well, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, is off to a great start. Some disappointments. Syracuse staying in the ACC and staying close to home. 8-8, I think they are. 2-3 in the ACC. Now they got some guys that can shoot the ball. Now Jim Boeheim's zone defense is now working. He's even getting away from it at times, working off of variations of that 2-3 zone. And, it's not working out right now, and they're going to have to turn it around. I mentioned Iowa State. Georgetown, hoping this year coming in, Patrick Ewing, the great Patrick Ewing was hoping. I'll get to your guys' comments in a minute, I promise. Was hoping to build off the momentum that from their Big East run last year. But they're off to a very, very slow start as well. In the Big East, they're only 6-6 overall, 0-1 in the conference. A couple of teams. St. John's got blown out by Kansas. There's still time for them to right the ship because they're 9-4 overall, but they've lost some games that they should never have lost, and were not even competitive in a couple of games. Rutgers, not off to a good start in the Big Ten. Another team that's underperformed the last few years. They've managed to make it to the NCAA tournament last year. They were on a great run again in the tournament that got canceled before, the year before. So they're a bit of a disappointment. Iowa, the great coach, Fran McCafferty, one of my favorite coaches. He coached a long time here at Siena, and they had some of their best years under Fran McCafferty, going to a couple of NCAA tournaments. So I always have a soft spot in my heart for Fran, but they're off to a tough start this year as well. And again, Big Ten, very, 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 very tough from almost top to bottom. I mean, look, you got a couple teams. Maryland's playing terrible. Nebraska's terrible. But other than that, these teams, and Northwestern's not terribly good, but you got 9, 10, 12 teams that are really competitive in that league. And it's going to be tough for them to fight back from this 1-3 start that they're off of in the league. And I'll get to a couple other good stories here in a second, but let's get to some comments here. Let's see. Don't want to go there. Why is Big 12 basketball the exact opposite of football? 8 of the 10 teams have double-digit wins. It's a basketball. I don't know. I was going to say it's a basketball league. It's become a basketball league because of, and I think it became more so when the Southwest Conference came in there and they brought teams like Baylor in Texas. I mean, Texas Tech. These teams have really brought the big. And again, it's been a while. But the Big 12 has been very competitive for a lot of years. In the old days when it was just the Big 6 and the Big 8, Kansas would roll in this league because there was no competition. Oklahoma didn't have much of a basketball team. They did for a few years in the 80s and whatnot, and they've been more competitive later on. But back in the 70s, 60s, they were not known for their basketball. Nebraska certainly never known for their basketball when they were there. Colorado, when they were in the league, not known for their basketball. Now it's become a basketball league as teams like Baylor have ascended, and Texas has gotten better under Rick Barnes for a lot of years, and then Shaka Smart, who snuck off to Marquette. Not off to a great start there either. Texas Tech started to get better, but Bobby Knight was there for a bit. Oklahoma State became a regular competitor, for lack of a better term. I can't think of the term I want to use, to get to the Final Four every year when Eddie Sutton was a coach. Iowa State got more respectable. So some very, very good teams have brought that league to, I think, look at probably, and we'll do this maybe next week, but, I'll do it right now. I mean, in my mind, the top 5 conferences are pretty simple. Pretty simple. The ACC, probably still at number 1. SEC's number 2. Big 12, maybe the Big 12 I would move into number 2. But all three of those I could interchange in any given year. Big East, I don't know if they're still in the top 5 or not, to be honest with you. The Pac-12 might be in the top 5. Other than that, I mean, those top 3 leagues to me are head and shoulders of everybody else. But you've got good teams in a lot of the, again, if we're going to use the football term, non-Power 5 conferences. So there will be a new number 1. Baylor lost. Duke lost this week to Miami, as I said. So, who's going to be number 1 this week? I will make a prediction, assuming there are no other changes or losses this week. I would assume Gonzaga will go back to number 1. They're number 2 right now in the AP and the coaches poll. And it's a really, really good basketball team. Gonzaga is a lot of fun to watch. Let's see what else we got here. So that would be my thought. I mean, if they were to slip up, UCLA would probably jump up. Interestingly enough, as we're talking about the rankings, Auburn, number 4 in the country, and have really, really gotten better the last few years as gosh, who am I trying to think of here? Oh boy. There goes the mind again. No, Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl has gotten that team going after being, kind of exiled after some problems at Tennessee, back in the SEC at Auburn and doing very well. Lots of teams hurting. Yeah, it's a long season now. These guys are playing 35, 30. They're getting close to 40 games by the time the NCAA tournament's over. So it is a long season. It's been tough with COVID with a lot of these teams again this year. But again, this is when things start to get good. St. John's has been to me, a disappointment this year. If I root for a team in college, it's usually St. John's. I always had a soft spot in my heart for St. John's. I was a Marquette fan and and I'm rooting for Miami now because, again, we're going to stick with the U. I was a Marquette fan. I still like to see them do well. When I was a kid, I was a big Al McGuire fan, so I was a Marquette fan when I was a kid. In fact, one of my great joys of some of the interview shows I've done was interviewing Butch Lee of that great 77 championship team from Marquette. I would say Gonzaga, definitely number 1, Rick. Houston's fun to watch. You know what? Houston had a great year last year. Where are they ranked now? I know they're in the top 10, I'm pretty sure, right? Take a quick look. They're at number 11 right now, 14-2. Drew's done a great job there. Not Drew. God, again, there goes my mind. No, that's Calvin Sampson, right? Calvin Sampson, yeah. Done a great job turning that program around. Again, a program with a lot of history. Fly Sama Jamma, as you can remember. Back in the 70s and 80s. Hello, Dave Guyette. Good to see you tonight. Red Raiders are a Final Four team a couple years ago. You're right, with Beard, I think, was their coach. It's funny, that Final Four, and I think that was a year before the term, it was washed away, right? Alan, I think that was the year tennis. Oh, God. The years just, I'll be honest with you. The last 3 years are like a blur to me. I've been working from home in another month, 2 years. Can't believe it. So things that feel like a year ago or 3 years ago. So that Texas team, I'm trying to remember who else was in that Final Four with Texas Tech that year. Help me out. That was the year, right? That was the year Virginia had won the year before, and UMBC knocked them out. But that the year Loyola, yeah. Help me out here, Alan. Look it up. Give me that Final Four that year. Again, that's one of the great things about college basketball right now. There are teams. We just talked about Jim Larrañaga, right? At Miami. George Mason gets to the Final Four with Jim Larrañaga quite a few years ago now, 10 years ago maybe. Maybe even a little more, I'm not sure. But that can't happen in football. But in college basketball, The Loyolas of Chicago, the VCUs, the Butlers, the George Masons have got a shot to get to the Final Four every year. And if it's not exciting and you don't want to see more teams in the NCAA tournament in football, you're nuts. We were the Red Raiders and now the Patriots. You know, very interesting, Rick, that you're a Patriot. Kidding. We were the Red Raiders. Good point. Texas Tech Red Raiders. We had to change our name. Apparently, Texas Tech did not. Maybe they don't have an Indian for a football symbol. I don't know. Or for a logo. I'm not sure what the deal is there. Here we go. 2019 Final Four. It was Virginia. So we got a little. Hold on. Alan, can't be both things. So how could they have gotten there, but they got beat by you? Yeah, I thought they were there with Virginia, Michigan State, Auburn, and Texas Tech. That's kind of what I had in mind. I thought Virginia was there. So Texas Tech got beat. No, that can't be. Tech didn't Virginia. No. All right. Virginia got beat in the first round the year before they won the tournament, not the year after. Right. I got it now. Yeah. Thank you, Alan. It came to me. They won the title in 2019. Good call. I just had a thought. One of these things just brought a thought to my mind. What was it? Oh, this post kind of brought, you know, one of the things that's happened in college football too this year is that the Blue Buds are back a little bit after a really tough time last year from some really traditionally strong teams. Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, none of them in the NCAA tournament. Two of them, I think, finished under 500, if not all three of them. But they're all back with different levels of success. Carolina's had a good start. They're not in the top 25, but they're just on the outskirts of it, and they have gotten off to a decent start. In non-conference play anyway. North Carolina is 11-4, 3-1 in the conference to get started. So a nice start for Hubert Davis, assuming the reins there for Roy Williams, the great Roy Williams. Duke, as we just said, was ranked number one before, or is ranked number one right now. They will lose that ranking. Oh, I'm sorry. They were number one. They'd already lost it. They'd already lost to Miami, but they're still 8th in the country. But they're back. Kentucky struggled last year. They're in the top 20, off to a good start in the SEC. Michigan State off to a good start in the Big Ten after a really bad year last year. So all these Blue Bloods are back, and it's good for college basketball. That's the thing about college basketball is the Blue Bloods are really good year in and year out, like the Alabamas in football. But there's always multiple. There's more than one Cincinnati every year that's got that's a great story and is going to make their way through March and scare somebody in the NCAA tournament and win a couple games, or maybe even make their way to the Final Four. I mean, that's what's fun about college basketball in my mind. Let's just take a quick tour around the and I'm going to give you a couple of predictions. Gets a little tough with this early in the year, but I'm going to give you a couple of predictions. So it's January 12th. You can hold me to this. Somebody write it down. Actually, I'm going to be like Mike Francesa, and we're going to lose the tape of the show afterwards. I'm going to go conference by conference and give you teams that are going to possibly be in the NCAA tournament. And hopefully I don't go over 68. In the USUN, the ASUN rather, American Sun Belt. I'm not even sure what the heck that league stands for crying out loud. I will go out on a limb here and take the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles to win that league. It's going to be a one-bid league. but I don't know much about it. There's some teams that have played pretty well throughout but this is a one bid league and probably one and out. But don't forget, Florida Gulf Coast won a couple of games again, maybe 10 years ago. One of those great stories that you get in March. So the American East, unfortunately, our Albany Great Danes are off to a really bad start under their new head coach. They're 4-10, probably going nowhere in the conference. It's a lot of fun when one of our local teams, either Albany or Siena, does well. This does not look like one of those years. I will go with the chalk and take the Vermont Catamounts, and this will be a one bid league as well. You have AAC, pretty good league. You got Houston. I would think Houston will be the favorite to get in. I think this league could get 3 bids. So I'm going to go with Houston, Memphis, coached by Penny Hardaway, and the SMU Mustangs to get in the tournament from this league. The A10, who I mentioned earlier, I like St. Bonaventure to come out with the tournament championship here and win this league. This another league that could get. It could be a one bid league. It could be a 3 bid league because VCU and Davidson will also compete. And you may see Dayton maybe if they get a little bit stronger through the midseason here, they could compete for a bid as well. The ACC is going to be a very interesting case this year. They've been good for 8-9 bids sometimes in the past. But some of these teams are not playing that well this year. Florida State's a bit of a disappointment. Virginia's a bit of a disappointment. I think probably Duke will win this league, and I think they might get, let's see, I'm going to say Miami gets in. I'm going to say Duke gets in. I'm going to say Louisville gets in. I'm going to say Notre Dame gets in, Carolina, and Wake Forest. Maybe one other team, maybe Clemson. Maybe. Big 12. Baylor's tough, but this league's, I think, loaded. I think Baylor wins. Baylor wins the conference, I'm going to say. I'll take the chalk there, but I would see Baylor, Texas Tech. What I say? Baylor, Texas Tech, Kansas, Oklahoma, I think will get in. I think West Virginia will get in as well. And then maybe it's going to come down to a battle between Iowa State and maybe Oklahoma State. It could come down to Iowa State or Oklahoma, or they could maybe both sneak in depending on how well they finish. The Big East, look, it rebounded last year. It's lost a lot of luster over the years because of the ACC stealing a bunch of their founding members. But this is a pretty good league, and Villanova's really good. Providence has proved to be good. Xavier's played very well. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say the Marquette Golden Eagles will get better as the season goes on and win this tournament and get the automatic bid. But I think you'll get Marquette, Providence, Villanova, Xavier, Seton Hall, and that may be it. The Johnnies would have to probably win the tournament to get into the conference or into the NCAA. What's Rick got here? I'll grab a couple of questions before I move on. For every Kentucky, you get a VCU. I agree. It's a lot of fun, though, right? Yeah, I think I had half the league in there. Way over 16 teams. For what? 68 teams, Rick. I'm not sure. I'm probably getting you out of context there. Sorry, buddy. Big Sky. Oh, Big Sky's a tough league. I'm going to go. I like Montana Grizzlies to win this league when it's all over. It'll be a one bid league. The Big South, look at UNC Asheville's had some good teams recently. Winthrop's had some good teams recently. I'm going to stick with UNC Ashley, one bid league again. But these are the ones that are tough to call because if the team doesn't win a tournament, they're not getting in. The Big Ten, you're going to see a lot of teams in from here. Illinois is really good. I'm going to go Michigan State to win this league. One of the big disappointments I forgot to mention earlier, though, is Michigan. Michigan had a great run last year, and they're just off to a horrendous start, under 500, and they're having trouble getting out of their own way right now. But I'm going to pick Michigan State in a rebound season under one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball to get back to the NCAA tournament and probably do very well. But I'll pick Illinois, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Right now, I got to say Indiana gets in. Purdue gets in. Purdue's like, 8th in the conference right now. And after that, I don't know if anybody else is going to get in. It's going to be very tough. Iowa might get in if they get on a good run. But they're going to need to get started pretty quick. Big West. Another under the radar league. I'm going to, I like the Anteaters of Cal Irvine here, and that's probably going to be a one big league as well. The Colonial, William and Mary leading right now. The team to watch out for, though, I'm going to say watch out for the Charlotte Cougars and watch out for James Madison. One bid league here. Conference USA, Old Dominion, always competitive. Charlotte 49ers, UAB's got a good program. But right now, I like Louisiana Tech, Karl Malone's alma mater. They're 4-0 in the league right now. I think they'll win this conference and get the one bid that'll go along with it. The Horizon League, Cleveland State, been a surprise a few times in a tournament. The Oakland Golden Grizzlies have been a surprise. Detroit, Mercy, Dick Vitale's old team. I'm going to have to go with the favorite here, though, Cleveland State to win. And maybe, who knows, maybe even win a tournament game before you know it. The Ivy League, always competitive. Princeton is back on top, looking very good right now. I'm going to go with Princeton. Maybe they get pushed a little bit by the Penn Quakers. The Metro Atlantic Conference. Here's somebody I forgot to bring up during my. Well, they aren't really a surprise. Iona is back with Rick Pitino, formerly of LSU, forced out of there. You won a national championship with Louisville. You won a national championship with Kentucky. Took Providence to the Final Four. Made the NCAA tournament with BU. Iona has got a chance. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think I said this on my Sunday show. Iona's got a chance with Rick Pitino. If he stays out of trouble, they may build a little mini dynasty here like a Gonzaga in the New York City area. They're the best team maybe in the New York City area right now. And they're the class of the Metro. I'd like to see Siena get going. They're 2-1 in the conference. Had a really bad non-conference season. But if anybody's going to push Iona, it's probably going to be Monmouth. This will be a one bid league, and it'll be Iona, and nobody's going to want to play Iona in the NCAA tournament. I guarantee you. Best teams they've had since Jeff Rulin was there. And then before that, when the great Jim Valvano was a coach, if you remember, they beat Virginia in the national the NCAA tournament, not the national championship, but the NCAA tournament back in the 80s. What league am I in here? The Mid-American, underrated conference. Buffalo's had some good teams recently. Ball State's had good teams through the years. Miami of Ohio's had good teams, but the Iowa Bobcats are the class of that league, and I would see Iowa maybe getting pushed by Toledo a little bit, but I'll take Iowa to get the bid out of the Mid-American. The Mid-Eastern Atlantic Conference. How are we doing on time here? Am I going to get through this? I think I am. Barely. We might go a little long. The Mid-Eastern Atlantic. Flip a coin here, guys. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to tell you that that Morgan State will win this conference with nothing to go on at all. The Missouri Valley, a very competitive conference with Loyola Chicago's had great success in the tournament a few times with Porter Moser as their coach. Drake has had some good teams the last couple of years. We know that Wichita State has done. I'm sorry, Wichita State's not there anymore. They're probably in Southern Illinois, Salukis, Walt Clyde Frazier's alma mater. They're second in the conference right now. I'm going to take Porter Moser's old team, the Loyola of Chicago Ramblers, to win that and the one bid that comes with it. Mountain West may get multiple bids. We'll see. San Diego State has been on a run for better than a decade. They've had some really, really good teams in the tournament. Haven't gotten over the hump to get to the Final Four, but they've had some Elite Eight teams, and this team just continues to kind of reload and do well. Boise State's got a pretty good team this year. Nevada's maybe a disappointment right now. They've had very competitive teams over the last couple of years. I'm going to take San Diego State and Nevada and maybe Colorado State to find their way into the NCAA tournament. In the Northeast, Wagner out of Staten Island here in New York is probably the class of that league right now, and I'll take them to win that division or that league's bid. Ohio Valley Conference. Right now you got Murray State at the top. Murray State's had some good teams and really pushed some teams in the tournament through the years, and I'll take Murray State here. In the Pac-12, you got some good teams. Arizona's playing great basketball, even under still a cloud of investigation from the NCAA and the FBI still, I believe. UCLA is resurgent under Mitch Cronin. Great job getting to the Final Four last year, and with a good chance to get there this year. They're number 3 in the country right now. USC's in the top 5 again. So those two, I'm going to pick UCLA to win this league, though, and I think they'll get those 3 teams in. They'll get Colorado in, and Oregon might rebound. Dana, the coach's name is escaping me all of a sudden, but I think the Pac-12, which has been a power through the years, it's been in a really down cycle. They may only have 3 or 4 teams that get to the tournament. Patriot League, one bid league. Interestingly enough, right now, Army and Navy are battling it out. And I'm going to pick the Navy midshipmen to win this automatic bid here. The Southeast Conference, really, really good this year with the resurgent Kentucky Wildcats. Auburn at the top and number 4 in the country. Texas A&M, one of the surprises in the country, playing really good basketball. LSU, always, well, not always, but recently having pretty good teams. They're 12th in the country. Missouri's got a competitive team. Alabama, we know what they did the last few years. Tennessee with Rick Barnes, good basketball team. Mississippi State had a good pre-conference schedule and did very well. So I'm going to pick Auburn to win this. I just think they're really, really been on a roll the last few years, and Bruce Pearl's done a great job there. But I'll pick Auburn, Texas A&M, Kentucky, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee, and I'm going to say South Carolina making the tournament. Southeast Conference, so we just did. Southern Conference. You got to take the Tennessee Chattanooga Moccasins to win this one. Southland Conference, again, a one-bid league. Flip a coin. I'm going to take we'll take Nichols. Nichols Colonials are second right now to win that. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. This will probably be, listen, Alabama State's got a good team. Well, they had a good team. They're 3-13. This is a tough league to pick. I'll go out on a limb and say Alabama A&M wins this. The Summit League, Oral Roberts, last year, big story in the NCAA tournament. I'm going to pick them to go back to the tournament this year. Sun Belt Conference, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, or the Troy Trojans will win this conference. The West Coast Conference, BYU, San Francisco, the two best teams in this league. No, they're not. Gonzaga plays in this league. Sorry, even though they're third in the conference right now, they've only played one conference game. They're number 2 in the country. Gonzaga easily wins this, but they may slip in 2 more teams into the NCAA tournament out of this conference if BYU and San Francisco play at the level they've played in pre-conference scheduling. And the Western Athletic Conference, the New Mexico State is in first place there. Grand Canyon, good story last year, resurgent program. Probably going to get one bid here, and I'm going to take Grand Canyon to make the NCAA tournament and win that conference. So, guys, 8:30, time to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys joining me. I don't know what my basketball music's going to be, guys. Somebody send me something they like that fits a college basketball show. You know, this was not my the drums do it. I don't know. Guys, next week we'll dive more into depth into the college basketball news. We'll certainly keep you updated on anything new in college football. But I appreciate you guys coming in. I appreciate you watching on Roku. I know I'm a few minutes over, but I don't think there's a show following me right now. But later on tonight, there will be other shows. Guys, get out, get your Roku devices, get your Roku TV, look for Northeast Streaming Sports. You can watch myself and all the other shows all week long. There's shows on demand. I appreciate you guys watching. Alan, Rick, Carlos, Anthony, Jory, whoever else was here today. I know I'm missing some of you guys. Thanks for coming in. I always appreciate it. Keith Engel, the TGI Sports Talk, college, football, and basketball huddle. We'll see you next time. Right here. Have a good day.